This is another podcast from Alpha Business Media. Welcome to the Deep Dive. You've brought us a really fascinating guide today focusing on, growing, processing, and exporting organic medicinal herbs and essential oils from Nepal.
That's right. And it paints this picture of what it calls green gold, a really interesting, maybe slightly hidden business opportunity high up in the Himalayas.
Green gold. I like that. It catches the ear. So for you listening, our goal here is to really dig into this potential. We'll use this guide as our sort of roadmap to figure out what makes this such a strong possibility right now.
Yeah, unpacking everything from, getting those plants actually growing to sealing the deal on an export contract.
It feels like it's about connecting these ancient resources with a very modern, very hungry global market.
Exactly. That's the core idea. There's immense value there that the world is waking up to.
Okay, let's jump into this opportunity then, because the source really emphasizes the timing. We've got Nepal, the Himalayas tradition, but then this huge, almost explosive global market demand.
Precisely. The guide kicks off by highlighting just how much growth there is in areas like wellness, organic stuff, natural medicines. I mean, the numbers are pretty eye-opening.
Give us a feel for the scale we're talking about.
Okay, so take essential oils, that market. It's heading towards maybe 15, even $20 billion globally by 2026. And it's not like it's slowing down.
So growing fast.
Yeah, CAGR, that's compound annual growth rate of about 7 to 9%. That's significant momentum. You see it in aromatherapy, high-end cosmetics, even food.
Right, so that kind of growth, it's a wave.
Yeah.
And places with the right natural resources, they're positioned to catch it. What about the bigger picture, herbal medicines?
Even bigger. That market's already well over $150 billion. And the projections, doubling, maybe hitting over $350 billion by 2028. People are actively looking for plant-based options.
And organic cosmetics, they seem to be everywhere now.
Absolutely. That's growing strong too, maybe 8–10% a year. And consumers, they're willing to pay more for products they see as clean, natural, without the synthetics, which puts these oils right in the spotlight.
And the guide flags a common thread here, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Something linking all these booming areas.
Yes, and it's super important, this rising demand for transparency and for certification.
You mean things like the USDA organic sticker or EU organic fair trade?
Exactly those. They're not just hoops to jump through anymore. They're actually powerful selling points. Today's buyer wants the backstory. They want to know the environmental impact, that people were treated fairly.
Okay.
And this push for traceability and trust, that's where Nepal, according to this guide, has this really unique, almost kind of monopolistic edge.
All right, so that connects the global demand and this transparency need to the why now. But why Nepal? What's their specific advantage, their USP that the source keeps highlighting?
Well, Nepal's unique selling point, as the guide lays it out, it's got several layers. First off, just the sheer biodiversity.
Right.
Because of the massive altitude changes, from near sea level up to the highest peaks, Nepal has this incredible range of plants, over 7,000 flowering species.
7,000, wow.
It's huge. And out of those, more than 700 are known in traditional medicine for having therapeutic uses. And many, like Yarsagumba, or the one we'll talk more about, Jadamansi, they're endemic, found nowhere else.
So unique raw materials right there in the landscape.
Exactly. Natural capital. Second, and this is maybe the big one for marketing, is what the source calls the Himalaya brand.
Not just a place, but a brand.
Yeah. It's powerful, almost mythical. Made in the Himalayas, it just signals purity, pristine nature, ancient wisdom. Consumers worldwide automatically think higher quality, more valuable.
So a built-in premium story just from the origin.
It's a massive head start.
Right.
Third, there's all that traditional knowledge. Centuries of Ayurveda, Tibetan medicine. They really understand these plants.
It's not just folklore, it's practical know-how.
Right. A rich database for developing products, figuring out uses, even marketing angles.
And the guide mentions government support, though maybe a bit inconsistent.
It does note that, policies exist, but the on-the-ground help can vary. But a really crucial point the source does stress is how little competition there is right now at the processing stage inside Nepal.
So most of the value is added after it leaves the country.
That's the key insight. A lot of this green gold is exported as raw herbs, maybe dried, but not processed into oils or extracts. So the big profit margin, that happens elsewhere.
Right.
And that gap right there in Nepal points straight to the opportunity for businesses that are ready to invest in doing the whole thing from the field right through to a finished, certified, export-ready product, vertical integration.
Okay, so you've got this perfect storm. Huge global demand for natural, traceable stuff, Unique plants in a place with amazing brand recognition, traditional wisdom, and this gap in local processing. That does sound like a strong case.
It really is. That's the core argument in this guide for why Nepal, why now.
Okay, but you mentioned 7,000 species. You can't do everything, right? Especially starting out. The source suggests focusing, picking a few key plants.
Exactly. It's about finding those high-value niches, not trying to boil the ocean. The guide looks at a few, but singles out a couple that have really compelling market stories and, frankly, good returns.
Tell us about one or two that really stood out in the text.
Okay, a prime example is Jatamansi.
Mm-hmm.
You might know it as spikenard or Himalayan nard. It's pretty amazing, grows way up high, like 3,000 to 5,000 meters.
Wow.
And it's the root that's prized. It gives this incredibly earthy, calming, essential oil.
And what's it used for?
Well, it's big in high-end perfumes for its base notes, but also widely used in aromatherapy for stress, sleep, even some hair care things.
And the value, is that where the high value part clicks in?
Oh, yeah. A single kilo of good Jatamansi oil could be $500, maybe up to $1,000, even more, depending on quality and if it's certified. But here's the really interesting bit the source highlights.
What's that?
It's actually threatened in the wild because people collect too much. So a business that focuses on cultivating it sustainably, not just wild harvesting, that gives you a huge ethical advantage.
Ah, so the conservation angle actually becomes a selling point.
Exactly. It becomes part of its premium value. Buyers who care about sustainability will seek that out.
That's really smart. What's another example of one of these niche plants?
How about chamomile? We all know the tea, right? But the serious money is in the essential oil from specific types, especially organically certified blue chamomile oil.
Blue. Why blue?
It's because it's packed with this compound called chamazulene that gives it the color, but more importantly, it's got powerful anti-inflammatory and skin-soothing properties.
Okay, so where does that get used?
Think premium cosmetics, stuff for sensitive skin, baby products, medicinal creams. It's a star ingredient. And the price reflects that. We're talking potentially over $1,000, maybe even $1,500 a kilogram for top quality organic blue chamomile oil.
Whoa, that's a serious price point.
It is. Now, it needs careful growing and processing to really max out that chamazulene and get the organic tick for markets like, say, Germany or the US. It's work, but the profit potential is massive if you get it right.
So it's about targeting these specific high-value plants, not just going for bulk.
Pretty much. The source mentions others too, like tea tree or lemongrass. Maybe easier to start with. They grow lower down, prices are more stable, yields are higher, kind of like an entry ticket.
Right.
But Jatamansi and that high chamazulene chamomile, they really represent that top-tier, high-margin opportunity.
And the guide insists that who you plan to sell to should drive your choice, right? Cosmetic companies, aromatherapy folks, selling direct online.
Absolutely crucial. Knowing your end market tells you everything, which plant compounds matter most, what certificates they demand, the price they'll pay, how you need to package it. It's market research driving the farming.
Okay, let's switch from picking the plant to actually setting up the business. The source has this practical roadmap from field to export contract. What are the key steps it lays out for actually doing this?
Right, the guide gets practical here. And it starts with a really fundamental point about land. It strongly recommends what it calls the community farming model.
Community farming, not just buying a big plot of land. Why is that?
Well, the source advises against a foreign or even non-local entity trying to own huge tracts of land. Instead, it suggests partnering with local communities, whole villages, or maybe groups of families.
How does that work?
Basically, your business provides the starting materials, seeds, cuttings, whatever, plus training on organic methods. And crucially, you guarantee to buy their entire harvest of that specific plant at a fair price you agree on beforehand.
So you become their partner, their guaranteed customer.
Exactly, a symbiotic relationship. And the business benefits, according to the guide, are pretty significant.
Like what?
Well, first, scalability. Need more raw material. Partner with more families. Easy. Second, it gives you this incredibly powerful social responsibility story.
Ah, right back to that transparency and ethical sourcing point.
Totally. You're not just an employer, you're helping create stable income for, maybe dozens or hundreds of rural families. That's huge for branding. It also builds loyalty and quality control.
How so?
Farmers are more invested in following your specific instructions. Your SOPs, standard operating procedures for planting, harvesting, drying, when they know they have a guaranteed buyer paying a fair price.
That makes sense.
And It makes organic certification way easier. You certify the whole community's land and practices together. The source really pushes this model as being uniquely suited to Nepal.
That model itself sounds like a major takeaway. Partnering with the community for supply. Okay, so the plants are grown, harvested. Next critical step.
The processing facility, the source calls it the heart of the business. This is where you actually extract the valuable oil or compound. This is where you add the big value.
What kind of setup are we talking about?
You need distillation gear. The guide suggests starting fairly small, maybe a 200 to 500 liter stainless steel distiller using steam distillation. But location is absolutely key.
Location?
Yeah, the facility has to be close to where the plants are grown.
Why is that so important?
Because a lot of those valuable compounds, especially in oils like that blue chamomile, they start breaking down fast once the plant is picked. Getting it into the still within hours makes a massive difference to the final quality and yield.
Got it. Process fast.
Process fast. And think about power. Diesel's an option, but if you're building an organic, sustainable brand, exploring solar makes a lot more sense for this story, too.
Right. Grow it right, near the still, process it quickly. Then quality control. You said it's the greatest asset?
Absolutely non-negotiable if you want those premium international buyers. You need tight SOPs for every single step, not just growing. But beyond procedures, you need hard data. Lab analysis. For every batch.
What kind of lab tests?
For essential oils, the gold standard is GCMS, gas chromatography mass spectrometry. It basically gives you a chemical fingerprint.
Shows exactly what's in there and how pure it is.
Precisely. Scientific proof. The guide suggests maybe using accredited labs in Kathmandu or India, even Europe at first. Then maybe invest in your own gear later as you grow. But consistency, proven by lab reports, that builds serious trust.
And speaking of trust, certification is the passport to these markets.
Essential. Can't stress that enough. Without the right pieces of paper, you're just not getting into the lucrative markets. Organic is fundamental USDA organic for the US, EU organic for Europe.
That takes time, though, right? The transition.
It does. Often 3 years where you have to farm organically before you can get the label. No prohibited stuff. It takes patience, definitely. But that certified organic label can mean a 30%, even up to 100% price bump.
Wow, okay. Clearly worth the wait.
And
any other key certifications?
GMP, good manufacturing practices, often needed if you're selling into cosmetics or pharma, food sometimes, ensures your production process is safe and consistent. And fair trade certification fits perfectly with that community farming model.
Right, reinforces the ethical side.
Yeah, signals fair treatment for the farmers. European buyers especially really value that.
Okay, so grown ethically, processed fast and clean, quality proven by labs, stamped with the right certificates. Now you actually have to sell it. Branding and packaging, that's where the Himalaya brand comes back in.
Totally. The guide says you're selling a story, not just oil. Brand names should hint at Nepal, Himalayas, purity, visuals, natural colors, clean design, but use real photos and videos.
It's the actual farms and people.
Yes. The communities, the fields, the distillation, the mountains in the background, that transparency is gold. Packaging should back this up. Eco-friendly stuff. Dark glass bottles for the oils, recycled cardboard, maybe use traditional Nepalese lacta paper for a label.
Nice touch. Tells the story visually and actually getting it sold. The sales channels.
The advice is generally start B2B, business to business. It's usually easier for an exporter starting out from Nepal.
So selling to other companies.
Right. Target cosmetic makers, aromatherapy brands, ingredient suppliers in your key markets. Send samples, your lab reports, your certs, and that compelling story. Going to trade shows helps too, like BioFac in Europe, Supply Side West in the US. Make connections.
Selling your high-quality ingredient to them.
Exactly. B2C selling direct to consumers online can bring higher margins per bottle, but it's much tougher and more expensive to build that brand awareness and manage the logistics yourself. Needs a proper online store, lots of digital marketing, social media, maybe influencers.
Okay, that covers the whole path, field to export. But no business is risk-free. What does the source say about the main hurdles and how to handle them?
Yeah, the guide is realistic. Bureaucracy, export logistics from Nepal can be tricky. The advice: don't try to be the expert on everything. Hire experienced local customs brokers and logistics firms who know agricultural exports right from the start.
Use the local experts. Makes sense. Climate risks, those are everywhere now.
For sure. Drought, weird rain patterns, hail, all threats. The fixes are diversification, different plants, maybe different locations within Nepal, using tech like irrigation if possible, and definitely crop insurance.
Smart planning. What about keeping the quality consistent? You mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, maintaining that high quality batch after batch can be a challenge. Nature varies, so the answer is strict adherence to those SOPs all the way through and relentless lab testing. Every single batch gets checked. Catch issues early.
And prices? Do they swing around a lot?
They can. Commodity markets fluctuate. So, to protect yourself, try to get longer term contracts with your B2B buyers. Don't just rely on the spot market. And developing even a small B2C brand helps too, gives you a bit more price control.
So there are challenges, but the guide seems to offer pretty clear strategies. Looking beyond the money, which sounds like it could be good, especially with processed exports, what's the bigger impact the source talks about?
The conclusion really frames it as a triple bottom line opportunity. It's not just about the profit, though that potential is definitely there.
Okay, profit is one. What are the other two pillars?
Second is planet. By encouraging organic, sustainable growing, especially for plants like jatamansi that are pressured by wild harvesting, the business itself helps conserve the Himalayas' unique biodiversity.
So the business model actually helps the environment.
That's the idea, profit aligned with conservation. And the third pillar is people, that community farming model. It creates stable income for rural families, often empowering women, boosting the local economy in a real sustainable way. Regional development.
Profit, planet, people. Sounds like a business designed to give back, not just take.
That's exactly the picture the guide paints. Now, it's definitely not easy. It takes knowledge, patience, investment, real strategic thinking. But the rewards, both financially and in terms of positive impact, they seem potentially huge.
This has been a really insightful deep dive. We've gone from, these remote mountain slopes in Nepal right through to the complexities of the global market, all through the lens of this guide. It's clear there's more to it than just the plants.
Absolutely. It's about adding value smartly at every step. How it's grown with the community, how it's processed, certified, and crucially, how that whole story is told authentically to the buyer.
So maybe a final thought for you, our listener, to chew on from all this. Consider the power of that product story. As this guide really underlines the narrative, where it comes from, who it supports, how it respects the environment, that narrative can add just as much value, maybe even more, to that little bottle of oil as the liquid inside it.
It's a compelling thought, isn't it? How profit and purpose can really work together in the right context.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Nepal's potential green gold.